Welcome to Fuller Speed Ahead. I'm Craig Fuller. I'm here with Cindy Lee. We're talking about the Inc. 5000 list, which LYNC Logistics, you're the CEO and founder of LYNC Logistics.
Yes, I am.
Tell us a little bit about LYNC Logistics. You guys placed really high in the Inc. 5000.
We did. We were 366 this year. We were 415 last year, so going up makes a big difference. We started in 2014. We're a female-owned brokerage. We had been in the truck business for a long time prior to that.
So over-the-road trucking brokerage, traditional, is it mostly van, refrigerated, over-the-road trucking, or is there other types of products you guys are involved in?
Right now we're doing a lot of over-dimensional. We do a lot of flatbed work. We're very heavy into beverage, building products, food services.
Got it. And so you're based right here in Freight Alley here in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
We are.
And you actually credit that with your success. It was interesting when the local newspaper did an interview with you. You had said one of the advantages of being based in Chattanooga is the talent base and the knowledge base that's here. And it was interesting, you credited, and I've done the same, the Access America acquisition by Coyote and then UPS and all of the people that churned out of that have re-entered the community but have gone and started or have been key executives in other trucking brokerages.
That's the reason to me that Chattanooga has boomed in this. Access America took a field that 15 years ago, 20 years ago when it started, brokerages were around, but they were the big guys. Nobody really thought about it. I was in the trucking business. I used brokerages, but they weren't as well known. And when Access America brought it into day-to-day living in Chattanooga, it became a great business to be in. And when they sold out, their business all those people that had started in that business model decided to go either out on their own or they came looking for jobs. And I was very fortunate. I hired 2 young men from there. And with their help, we grew to what we are today.
Yeah, it's been an astounding story. People ask why Chattanooga is the center of innovation and center of entrepreneurship in freight. And I actually credit Ted Aileen and the Access America crew for having exited when they were young enough and recycled the capital recycled.
Right.
And I think, it's interesting, having come from a family that's been involved in trucking, a lot of that wealth was actually still concentrated inside the families. It did a lot to build sort of management expertise and tribal knowledge in the community, but it didn't really invest in recycling it through the broader community. But that exit actually has a lot to do with the reason there is so much activity happening in freight.
I believe without that exit, we wouldn't be where we are today. And in the Freight Alley in Chattanooga, I mean, granted, we had US Express and Covenant, of which you've been extremely aware, but it solidified everybody getting into it. Joe Blow could go start a brokerage in his house and do really well. And there have been several that have done that. I started this as a addition to the trucking company that I was running. It wasn't to be what it is today. And I thought I wanted to get rid of brokers. I hated them as a truck owner.
I think most asset-based carriers hated brokers. And some of them still do.
Yeah,
Except their own, right?
Right,
they love their own, they hate everybody else.
Well, if you notice, our tagline behind you is no brokers, just fixers. Brokerage was a bad thing for me. And so the more we got into it and how Ted Aileen and those guys brought it into a market that I could understand and that were, by and large, they were truthful. They told you what you were hauling. They made it easy to get into the marketplace, I think.
Yeah, and culture, I think a lot of their success is the culture that they built. It was just this really big sales culture. And we see it reflected in Reliance, the insurance company that's based here. And if you go to the successful brokers that are here in town, and if you look at the Inc., interesting enough, finally Chattanooga and the state of Tennessee has sort of woken up to how important logistics is. I've been saying it 2 years,
you have.
And it was upon deaf ears, and now they've gotten it. But 8 of the 11 Fortune 5000, the Inc. 5000 companies that were on the list this year were somehow involved in transportation logistics. It's an important sector in this economy, but a lot of the success that they had, and I think you guys have had and others, is that cultural element, is this really fast-moving culture that really empowers people. And you don't see that in a lot of companies, period.
Well, I've been involved in, when I originally started my work first, I worked for Provident before it became Unit, and everything was very controlled. You weren't allowed to make a lot of decisions on your own. You did what everybody did in business. for me, the brokerage is amazing. I hire people and I tell them that their desk is their business. I don't interfere. They have a certain ground that they can make their own decisions, how much they can lose. I'll let them lose up to a couple of thousand on a load if I think we're going to make
couple thousand on a load.
We have done that just to get in this one door, and we got in and we've made way more money. But I let them run their own business. We have a very open culture. Obviously, there's beer. Everybody has to. It's kind of a thing. Are they allowed
to drink during the day?
They are allowed to drink, but I don't have a problem with it.
No one ever does, right?
They have a beer in the afternoon. That's about it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I found when my children were growing up. You let them have things, and it doesn't become.
No, we have a bar with 60 taps. That I don't think anyone ever uses it during the day.
No.
And in the afternoon, it gets used quite a bit.
But not during the day. We have dogs. We have everything in the business. And that culture, that freedom, lets them concentrate on that phone all day. They are on the phone. It's a dialing for dollars. It's a sales position, and that's all they do.
So explain to me, not brokers, fixers. What does this mean?
What we do is we want to fix your problems. Everybody has a problem with a trucking company and getting it together with a shipper. What we want to do is not just say, hey, we'll broker your freight out. We want to fix that problem. If that truck driver doesn't show up, if that trucking company falls off, if there is a breakdown, we're going to fix your problem and get your freight there.
So really, and
we're not allowed to lie.
Okay. What does that mean, not allowed to lie?
Well, in my trucking company, I sent a driver down to El Paso to pick up a load.
In the asset-based carrier?
It was in the asset-based side. This is right before we got into the brokerage company. Sent them down to pick up a load. She said she noticed some weird things, like there were a lot of security guards, a lot of armed guns, but she was picking up scrap metal. Loaded her truck. They did tell her not to stop for 300 miles. She said that was kind of a giveaway.
Yeah.
But she got to Washington, D.C. We were delivering to the Mint, which we did a lot. They had armed guards come. They wouldn't let her out of her truck. We were carrying a load of shredded copper, which is about $1 million load because it's untraceable if it's stolen.
Got it.
And that was at the time when copper was extremely valuable.
Got it.
I'd been told there was less than a $50,000 load on that truck.
So when you guys, this is from a broker, a freight broker? So you had a lot of liability if something had gone wrong.
I would have lost my shirt.
Yeah, that would have been unfortunate.
So what my guys are not, we're upfront. We're going to tell you whether we can take your load. We're going to make sure that the trucking company knows exactly what's on the load, where they have to be. Sometimes we all got, just to get a truck, if it was hard to do it, you kind of tell them something. And,
yeah.
We are very honest up front. And
so
I think that
that's
makes
a core part of your philosophy is to be honest. But I love the idea of fixing, because I think the thing that, we cover a lot of the digital brokers that are trying to digitize or aspire to digitize the space. But the thing that I always go back to is, at the end of the day, this is still a business that almost in half the loads, there's exceptions, particularly brokerage freight. And you mentioned a heavy haul or different types of haul. That freight is very specialized.
It is.
Which requires human intelligence, not just artificial intelligence.
Well, everybody talks now about autonomous trucks and also the company out there that's now doing brokerage without ever talking to a person. It's all done.
Yeah, digital brokers are the Convoys and the Ubers.
Yeah, great. But what happens when that truck driver his tire blows?
That never happens.
Never happens. Or my favorite one is they break down, but they don't have any money to fix their truck.
Right.
So, you're negotiating between the driver and some repair shop. A computer can't do that.
Yeah, it's all exceptions. At the end of the day, most of freight and freight management is exceptions. If it was all electronic, if it was all automated, you would have no exceptions, you wouldn't have any people. That would have been done by now.
It would have been, because Lord knows that's always been our problem day one. So we want to fix your problems. We're going to anticipate what's going on. That's our goal.
So you guys had an asset-based trucking company. You actually started out, you and your husband started a truck leasing and sales business, right?
Well, his family had it, and then we came into it and bought it.
And it was a Navistar dealer, as well as doing leasing. You then started an asset-based truckload carrier.
I was not there when they started, but I ended up taking over because I love truck drivers.
Okay.
I absolutely adore
it's
truck
good that
drivers.
you love the business that you're dependent upon.
I loved them. And so for 19 years, we grew it, and then trucking today is vastly different. Everyone knows it. I had cameras in my trucks, tracking in my trucks. I had 60 trucks. I had 45 to 50 really good drivers, and then I had a 10% pool that came in and out. The roads are dangerous.
Yeah.
The liability is horrible.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I didn't sleep.
No, because you're one accident away from
everything bad happening. Yeah. And so we talked about it. I know that the dealership and the leasing company really did, it all played in together. And told my husband I wanted to start a brokerage, and he kind of laughed. And I did it, and 3 years later, we were doing well enough that the trucking was a small sideline and wasn't profitable.
So you shut down your asset base. I think we actually covered the story.
You did. Everybody did. I was in business for 20 years and nobody covered me, but the day I shut it down, it was like,
there's a saying in media, and I now appreciate it, is if it bleeds, it leads.
Yes, and it did.
Unfortunately, these stories of companies going out of business, people are interested in it. They want to know the stories. They want to know how it impacts the people, and it is an unfortunate story, but it's part of what we do. But I like to talk about the successes too, and I like to talk about how you guys. So you shut down your asset-based carrier,
yes,
and then you invested all of your energy in the freight brokerage business, and obviously the results are showing that.
It's great. I mean, it's done really well. I don't credit my success for it. I think I'm pretty good at hiring good people, and I let them do their jobs. I provide a lot of direction, but they do their jobs and do it well.
Now, do you hire experienced people that have books of freight that they bring with them, or do you guys hire people who've never been in the business?
The first two hires were Matt Soloff and Keith Gray were probably the first two big hires that I made.
And were they Access America?
They were, and but Keith came. Everybody comes now with a non-compete.
That's the nature of the beast.
Non-disclosure. So Keith came in, and his big customers he couldn't touch for 9 months, and we were fine. We didn't do it at all. He was my only employee for quite a while, and he and I just worked together. We picked up business. We picked up some of the people that we hauled for the trucking asset side. We actually picked up their business, and then I hired Matt, and same thing. They all came with their non-competes. For a while there, until we grew, we hired people with no experience.
Okay.
And we trained them. We looked for people in the world that had no experience in this, but they had great presence and were willing to talk. One of our incredible employees, and I'm not going to say her name because I don't want anybody to go after her.
We don't want anyone to pick her off, right?
But she came from being a bartender. She is my #1 freight broker.
Got it.
She did 6 figures.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, she's doing amazing. She's one of those people, she is a fixer. We gave her an account that we weren't sure was going to do much, and she was there at night. She was there on the weekend when somebody else would fall off, and they would call, and she would cover their freight. And now we were named a platinum broker for them.
Congratulations.
Thank you, it's awesome.
I think, it's interesting because I think a lot of this business, particularly in freight, is about the personalities, the work ethic, and the competitive nature.
You have to be competitive.
It is, and you have to have thick skin too, because stuff's going to happen. Inevitably, I sold freight too, and it was always, I would bust it to get a customer, would get them, we'd end up, inevitably something would go wrong, we'd lose them, get them back because of me and my relationships, and inevitably, whenever you'd get them back would be the next load you'd screw up. It's the rule of freight, and you have to get back out there.
Oh God, and in today's world, there is a group of trucks out of the Midwest that are very interesting to deal with.
Yep.
And it's almost, we found recently, almost to a blackmail standpoint. If you don't do what I want, I'm going to have all my friends write reviews.
Yeah, well, there is a power of social media. There is a power of this connected world. And I think reputation is very important.
It is.
And those relationships, it's very easy to get on a load board and post a load or find a truck. That's easy. The success is really driven on the insights people have, the tribal knowledge of how the industry operates, and frankly, their ability to negotiate, both with the shipper, but oftentimes the driver.
Oh, the driver is the most important part of that. And that is one vision we have different. I've dealt with truckers for so long that when we went into this, I told them that the trucking company is as big of a customer to our brokers as the shipper is. And that's a little unusual. When I dealt with brokers, they didn't care about trucking companies. They're a dime a dozen. But we really have made a huge effort to keep the trucking companies we have, understanding that they're as big a partner to us as we are to the shippers.
Now, you are not a typical executive in freight.
No, not
You're a female.
Old female.
You're not typical in the sense that you don't fit the typical profile. I'm wondering, in this world of moving into freight, and recently, especially as an upstart, how was the environment different for LYNC than perhaps it is at other organizations?
There is no. We have kids at the office all the time. In the workforce today, everybody has children. Close the school, kids are running around my office all the time. It's definitely young kids,
okay.
2 and 3 year olds. In fact, my 3-year-old granddaughter fired all my employees the other day.
Did you allow that to happen?
I told them they were rehired, and she fired them again. I just don't get it.
Got it.
But I think we're different in that it's not the fraternity atmosphere that a lot of brokers have.
Right.
We're very geared toward the person that has a family, that has, most of our employees are from 25 and up to about, I think I have one that was 50 and he quit recently, which I was sad to see him go. But they're all in that mid-range. Elementary school kids, early childhood kids, right. 2 to 3. We certainly have an atmosphere that anybody can come to work and bring their kids, and we understand about that whole thing. I'm probably more sympathetic than if there was a man running the company. Mm-hmm. We do have a lot of women in our office. We have 9 women freight brokers. One of those is the girl I told you about, and she's my #1 broker, and she's beating any man that I've ever had working for me.
That's awesome.
My CEO is he's a female, sorry. And I have Hannah Soloff as a talent manager. She's in charge of training, culture, that whole thing. I think I bring a different vibe to the office. I certainly am old, so they treat me different, but I can keep up. We have a kickball team, and of which I was not invited to go to. I was only invited to...
I wasn't invited either.
I was only invited to pay for it.
Yeah.
So the other day they were desperate. They were going to lose if they didn't have a female, so they asked me. I'm the only one that got on base.
Good for you.
And when the guy was going to tag me out at third, I said, your mother's going to hear about this. He dropped the ball, and I made it to home.
That's awesome. Well, to see it, whatever it takes. What do you see in the market right now that you're currently seeing, this being August 2019?
Produce season was weird this year. Usually in trucking,
weather could cause a lot of...
you make your money from May to July, into July. Mm-hmm. That lasts you all year, and the rest is gravy on what you get. That was not happening this year.
Right.
Produce season was off because of all the rain, all of the stuff that happened. Rates are down. Our volume is up, and our profit margin is up.
Oh, wow.
Our revenues are down, and that's simply because the rate per mile is down so low.
As you think about moving forward the rest of the year, are you concerned if spot rates go up and contract rates are not? Is that going to compress margins?
It will, to a certain extent. A lot of our customers that we have contract freight with now understand that good service comes at a price. And when contract freight gets low compared to spot, and all the trucking companies back off, of which I was one when I had a trucking company, they understand that we're going to have to pay more to get it. Mm-hmm. I'm not as worried about, I'm more worried about what happens globally with the tariffs and all of that.
Trade.
All of the uncertainty from one day to the next scares me.
Yeah, it is an interesting time. We've covered a lot about tariffs and trade, and certainly there's a lot of arguments to be made on both sides, but fundamentally at the end of the day, it's going to create pressure short term. Whether that's good or bad, there's people who have perspectives both ways, but no one really knows.
No, but if you've been in the freight market long enough, ups and downs are great. They happen.
Volatility happens.
You got to remember.
Freight broker, that's actually, you make money because the market is volatile.
Exactly.
So,
2008, I don't ever want to live through that again.
Yeah.
But now things are okay. I'm making a living. Everybody in my office is making a living, and we're growing. I can't ask for anything better.
Yeah, we're bullish about the rest of the year.
I think you're right.
And we've seen a turn really in the last couple of weeks. We were pretty negative. I was a bear.
You were
in May,
negative every time.
And it was like, whatever, and now I've turned. So, but we like the momentum. This is the world we live in, and it's all momentum. So.
It'll be interesting to see what the rest of the year brings.
Well, congratulations on your success.
Thank
and we
you.
love that you're doing it right here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.